All right, guys, and Calibrated Power is sponsored today's special guest. We have UCC competitor, UCC fourth place winner, Donavan Harris. Donavan, how the hell are you?
Good, just trying to get caught up on my sleep from the event and from the trip home.
So now where most of us had the luxury of maybe driving 5 or 6 hours, we were talking right before this recording went live, you traveled 2,000 miles one way to compete at UCC.
Yep.
Wow. So not only the jam-packed weekend, which we're going to get into, then you had a 2,000-mile drive home.
Do you do that in 2 days?
No, I left at about 10 or 11 o'clock on Monday, and then I got home Wednesday night. I split it up into about 12, 13-hour days kind of thing. One day was about 8 hours, and the other two were about 12, 13.
Man, that's a tough run.
That is insane.
But hey, you do it to compete. Donavan, before we dive too far in, hey, give our listeners a little bit of your background in diesel performance.
Started a shop in 2007, so we've been doing it for coming 12 years now. Started competing in drag racing in 2009, and I don't know, I think we're probably one of the oldest teams around, to be honest with you. But yeah, we do work out of Red Deer, Alberta. Got a shop here. I got 6 employees, and we do everything from brakes to 2,000 horsepower.
And everything in between.
That's Armor Inc., guys. Definitely some cool stuff going on up there. Like you said, you've been around the game a long time, and the racing has really been stepping up. You're one of those guys who you travel long distances to race, right? Yeah. We've put on many miles over the 10 years we've been racing, because we have some drag races up here, but all the big cool guys and all the big fancy events are usually a good 1,500 miles away or so to get to something to race the East Coast guys anyways.
Now, how about in preparation for UCC? I remember middle of April, Dynamite Diesel launched a video where you and Lenny Reed had the truck on Dynamite Diesel's dyno, and you guys were doing some testing and whatnot. Even for you to go and do something like that, that's a bit of a hike from you to get from where you're at to Dynamite Diesel. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's about a 9-hour drive. To Lenny's place.
Not too bad.
No, that's a short one.
That's a Canadian
insane.
Workday, man.
Yeah,
Come on, no big deal.
That's great. Just
Exactly.
the dedication and what you put into that's insane.
You got to remember, Chris, Canadian exchange rate, so that's only 7 hours American.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's 35%. Everything you buy from us is on sale every day.
Now, Donavan, you put on a hell of a show at UCC. Walk our listeners through your truck, man. What'd you bring to the show?
Same truck we've had the last 4 years. We got a 2008 regular cab, long box, 4-wheel drive. We've been running a D&J deck plate 6.7 motor in it for the last 2 years, and we bring our drag. We've been drag racing for years, so we have pretty good experience there. We struggled a bit this year with our tranny. We cracked the valve body. So we struggled a bit drag race day, and then we come out and did our best numbers ever on the dyno day, and brought a simple back half situation for the sled pull. So all in all, our truck is not real complicated, I guess, when it comes down to switching events, because we spent about 2.5 hours getting ready for the sled pull. So all in all, our truck's pretty good. It just we kind of struggle a little bit here and there on a few things, but we're looking at coming back next year, but we'd have to change some stuff for sure to try and get that number 1 spot.
Well, let's walk through the days. You want to go in reverse order this time, Chris? So we'll start with the pull on Sunday.
Yeah. So sled pull. What place did you take in the sled pull?
To be honest with you, I don't even remember where I placed in the sled pull.
Okay.
I never looked.
I checked. It was a little bit down in the pack, pulled up 228 feet. But, hey, man, it's a rough weekend. That's the last day. And sled pulling, not really your guys' thing.
Well, we've been sled pulling for quite a few years, not at the crazy level the guys out east are, but we've been sled pulling for a number of years. But we were sitting second overall going into the sled pull, and we swung pretty hard, to take first place, and it just kind of bit us. We put a little bit too much into it, and we're not exactly sure what happened yet. Whether it's, we got some oil in the coolant, etc. So I don't know if it's a head gasket or a melted piston or what went on, but it kind of, you know, it happened probably at about 175 feet. I've seen some oil spray, and, you know, probably the normal thing would have been just to let out, but I just unlocked the converter, and grabbed the last nice button I had, finished her off.
Fuck it, let her eat, man.
Yeah, right. The last day. It's the last day at that point.
Somebody always said you could fix it at the end of the track, so that's what I did.
All right.
So the sled pull didn't go your way, but shit, man, the drag racing sure as hell did back on day one. I see you came in, oh, God, was it 5th place with a 560? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 560. Unfortunately, we've been running, like last year consistently, we were 540 and 530. But we added a bunch more power to the truck this year from what we normally run. So our first run out on the strip, we bounced off the rev limiter a couple times. That's when we ran our 565. Bounced off the 6,000 RPM rev limiter a couple times, and that's what we came up with. So, and then after that, the tranny just kind of gave us grief for the rest of the day. We swapped a couple trannies, and then later on found one of our valve bodies was cracked, so we were losing pressure, and we haven't got the second one apart yet. So the power-driven guys were camped next to us. Fortunately, they do a lot of trannies, and we do some too, but we took our tranny over there and we tore it down and changed a couple things that needed to be changed, and they even showed me a couple upgrades we could do to make it a little better. And, hats off to them guys for giving us a hand. That was pretty cool of them.
So I'm finding this common theme as, we're interviewing the UCC competitors. You guys are all in competition against one another. You're all looking for that top spot, yet when you're in the pits, everyone's lending a helping hand to make sure that everyone can be at the same caliber to even compete.
Yeah, it's pretty cool for sure. All the guys there, like, you can, if you need something and you go to a pit and they got it, 9 chances out of 10 they're going to give it to you. I know one guy needed he broke a drive shaft on the sled pull, and I said, "Is that just a stock drive shaft?" He goes, "Yep." I said, "Well, there's one on the trailer if you want to go grab it." That was for Mike actually, and he took the win overall in the qualifier. So, it's just if you have it and you walk over there and they got it for you, they'll lend it to you. There's usually no questions asked.
Sure. Well, hey, I wanted to ask about the drag racing. In the past, it's just been open lanes. So you guys get like 12 hours or whatever, and you go out and you run, you get your best pass. This year we had the qualifier, and then we had the bracket racing. Now, you have a lot of experience at the tree. How do you think it impacted the overall competition? Do you think we got the best drag racer at the top of the pile and maybe the one who should have been at the back?
Not necessarily, because they jam-packed a lot going into one day. When you got to do 2 or 3 qualifying passes and then drag race 4 to 6 rounds with trucks at this level, it's just there's not a lot of time in between rounds to get ready. It definitely wasn't a bad idea to drag race, but it sure put a lot of hard work into trying to keep these trucks running. Derek Rose got a bye in the first round, then he come into the second round and he broke his trans on the line, so he had the fastest pass of the day, but, the tranny broke and he couldn't finish it out. So I think Rudy is who won the actual drag racing portion of it.
Yep.
And there's no doubt they built a truck that works. They were out testing a bunch for 2 or 3 weeks prior to the event. So it definitely, one of the truck that won was probably the best prep truck out there.
Gotcha.
So did it put the top guy on the top? I don't know. I couldn't say that for sure because, our truck consistently runs faster than that truck does. So, but you got to keep it together at the same time. So.
Yeah, it adds an element of survival to it, because in the past we have seen guys go out, set one pass, and then wait until the last few minutes and go out and try to set their fastest pass of the night, to leave themselves at top. And hey, man, I love a competitive strategy. This year I felt it kind of evened the playing field a little bit, so to speak, where you're going to get guys out there who, like Tony Burkhart, no drag race experience, right? Yep. And then you're going to get, like you said, you and Aaron Rudolph and Rawlings and the whole crew out there who are some dedicated racers and really see some badass racing, which is what we saw. I feel it put on a great show.
It was a great show. It was a lot in one day because there was a lot of carnage and a lot of oil downs, and you know, when you're trying to make your fastest pass you've ever made plus drag race, you know, it's just a ton of pressure and a ton of parts laying everywhere.
Well, and plus, I think, you know, the other thing that, you know, we've touched on a bunch is, you know, the drag racing didn't necessarily start when planned, and you have that in the back of your mind of, okay, when is it going to start raining again? I mean, day one was very nerve-wracking just in that sense alone.
Yes. Yeah, the weather definitely wasn't on our side for the drag race and the dyno portion of it. They had they did their best to squeeze us all in, but I think they kind of set it down at the end of the night because the track was getting too cold. But it definitely was it was a big day. And we didn't start racing until I think just about noon or 1 o'clock. So that didn't help.
Right. I wanted to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, plus the weather, you know, being that cold, it was cold outside and rain, so the track prep, you know, was as good as they could get it. But you know, guys were spinning pretty good too. So. Yeah.
Sure. I wanted to talk a little bit about your setup changes, drag racing, dyno, and sled pull. What did you change on the truck for each event to optimize your performance?
Going from the drag race to the dyno, all we really do is a tire swap. That's all we really do there, and then set up our nitrous and you know, pick a tune. But that's kind of all we do there. And then when we go to step up to sled pull, we do a gear swap in the front, and then in the rear, our drag race rear end comes out, and we slide in a whole new frame underneath is what we do there. And then we add a bunch of weights. We can weigh up to 8,000 pounds. And
you said that was only about 2 hours to go ahead and swap that changeover?
Yeah, we got 4 guys working on it. You know, a couple guys handing wrenches, so the front goes up in the air, and one guy starts swapping the gears in the front, and on the back we jack her up and, you know, unbolt the 4-link system and slide in a whole new frame into the back. So yeah, it took us about 2.5 hours is probably what it took us to be done.
That's fucking awesome.
That's incredible.
This is in the pits at the show, right?
Yeah.
Like this isn't like in the shop up on a lift. This is no in the weather.
No. Yeah, the guys, you know, we kind of preset everything, the gears, and you know, we have everything laid out and everything. So, you know, it works pretty good. And the guys, you know, my team, there was 3 dedicated guys to, you know, kind of wrenching on it. And, you know, they're all good qualified mechanics, and, you know, they get shit done.
Sure. Well, hey, the event we're skipping over here, of course, is the dyno. It was a cold day. Obviously, Tony had his own challenges there, and we saw some other stuff going on, some nitrous backfires and things of that nature. Donavan, you put down 2,096 horsepower, 3,019 foot-pounds of torque, which is crazy. I think is the understatement of the year. This has been something we've seen every year. They're up in the ante at UCC. We see, you know, D Rose came in over 2,500 horse, and even the guys who you're right there by are only, you know, 100, 150 horsepower away from you. What does this look like in the future, man? How much further do you think we can take these diesel trucks?
I don't know. I think the top horsepower number is probably going to be around that 2,500 mark, because other guys have been, you know, 24 and change. You know, Derek Rose, 2,500. I think maybe it's kind of going to start topping out there as far as the chassis dyno goes. The number we laid down is our best number to date, and you know, we had 10 minutes to make our pull, and you know, he set the dyno, and I nodded my head, and like we were done at 49 seconds, and I'm like, are we done? And like, I talked to my partner Lenny. He's like, "Yep, we're good. I'm happy with that number." I'm like, "Yeah, me too." So 49 seconds in, we were done. Like, if they'd have had something for the fastest dyno pull, you know, ever, then we'd have got it. So yeah, we were happy with that number, and we just said, "Yeah, we're good." Unstrapped her and pulled off.
For all the listeners that we have, you know, and all the, you know, the spectators that were at UCC, within reason, the truck makes, you know, arguably 2,100 horsepower, and they think that, you know, 2,100 horsepower is what it takes to run like a 5.4 or a 5.3 or a 5.6 in the eighth. That's just simply not true. Compared to that dyno number, what do you estimate the power that the truck has going down the track to be, roughly?
In reality, you know, to run our 540s and stuff like that, our truck, we're probably in around the 1,900 horsepower.
Okay.
We run not a lot less dyno or nitrous down the track, but we kind of bring it on in stages differently, and definitely a little less nitrous than we do going down the drag strip. Like there's guys, you know, using anywhere from 500 to 1,300 horsepower with a nitrous on the dyno, and that going down the track, you know, it just wouldn't live very long.
No, not at all. But it's just that something,
No.
you know, when people read these numbers and see these, you know, documented in the magazines and on the internet,
Yeah.
you know, that's not necessarily usable power. That's show power. That's proving a point.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, you know, that's the same guy who now wants to tow his 1,000 horsepower
Exactly.
truck, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Just because the truck is capable of it doesn't mean you use it for that. So.
No, exactly. You just, you know, it won't. The trannies won't live. You know, the engine won't live, et cetera, et cetera. It's only a short. You know, you see it up there, and it's like a, you know, 1 to 5 second pass at the most, and probably not even like 1 to 3 seconds is probably all the dyno is at. You know, when you're going wide open throttle.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's awesome, man. So you're back now. Your whole week traveled to get back home. What are your plans for this year with the truck? Where else can we expect to see it?
We haven't made a lot of plans yet with that truck. We're going to try and dial in the sled pull a little more, and then, you know, obviously go a little faster down the drag strip. You know, if we can stay around that 2,100, 2,200 horsepower on the dyno, you know, that's going to keep us in the running for sure. But it'd be nice to go, you know, down lower in the, you know, 5.0, 5.1, somewhere in there, you know, pass down the track is where we'd like to get it, you know. So we got a couple other trucks. We're building a Pro Mod 2-wheel drive right now, so it's about ready to start in about a week. So we might focus a little more time on that.
Okay.
Than worried about this truck too much for the summer, anyways.
You're starting to see some of the shops, you know, they're kind of going that route with, you know, 2-wheel drive, you know, chassis, Pro Mod style configurations. What kind of power plant's going to be in that?
It's a D&J motor as well.
Okay.
It's going to run a single turbo on it, and it's actually the first truck that we come out drag racing with back in 2009. We just took it. It was a 2-wheel drive, short box, half ton, and we just took it and pretty much teared it down to nothing. And it's got a front tube, the front half, and we went from 4,900 pounds, and we're hoping we're going to be about 3,300 pounds.
Whoa.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to get on that diet.
Yeah. It was a big change, that's for sure.
Wow.
I love it, man. Well, we're definitely excited to see Donavan and Armor Inc. make it out to some more events. I know our fans have been asking us to get you on the show, man. We're really excited to see what the rest of this year brings. Any final thoughts or shout-outs you want to give?
Just a shout out, you know, to Lenny Reed at Dynamite Diesel, you know, for backing us up. You know, he has some crazy ideas, and sometimes we get them to come to fruition, and sometimes we don't. But you know, he's a big part of the truck. All the guys at Armor Inc., you know, all the guys at Dynamite Diesel, you know, helping out. You know, who else? Diesel Performance Converters, you know, they help us out a lot with all the converters. Nitro Gear supplies us with gears and third members for our gears. Jared Bowler, Breakout Tuning, you know, he's an awesome guy, awesome friend. He's there for tuning. He's there for ideas. He's there for, you know, let's do this. It'll go faster, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the ideas never stop coming from him. So that's a big portion of our team. And then also Perkins Diesel kind of come on this year with us, and they're helping us with our sled pull stuff. So hats off to them guys for giving us a hand, you know, building our back half as well as being there at the track to kind of help point us in the right direction and give us some ideas.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, we know you're busy, so we'll let you get back to breaking everything down and getting the trucks up and rolling again. Well, hey, one of the other things that was a lot of fun, Chris, was our trip over to WC Fab a few weeks ago. We're going to cut to a segment of that trip.
We've definitely learned what works and what doesn't work. You know, as Chris mentioned, there's many different gauge thicknesses out there, and there's a lot of companies out there that sell intercooler pipes that shouldn't go on diesel trucks, in my opinion. They might work fine on a gasser application, making that 15 or 20 pounds of boost. But you know, one thing, for example, is we'll talk about aluminum piping. Aluminum is nice because you don't got to worry about any sort of rust on the inside of the pipes, and in some applications you could just put the pipe on your vehicle raw. You don't even have to powder coat it, even though most people would like to. And we use all sorts of materials. We use stainless, we use mild steel, we use aluminum. And as of lately, we're actually converting a lot of product over to aluminum, but we're not using the standard as most people have in the past of 16 gauge. The problem with 16 gauge aluminum and high boost applications is you go to put your T-bolt clamp on your silicone boot, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone, and I know none of you probably do either, put a torque wrench on your T-bolt clamps. You just crank them down.
Right.
And when you're cranking down a T-bolt clamp, you're going to crank that sucker down until it stops cranking. And
or
the
it blows out.
Or it blows out. Or you strip it out. I mean, you want to keep your boost in. You don't want your boots blowing off. Obviously the bead rolls are there, and that's important. But the issue with some of the thinner gauge aluminum is obviously much softer. You start cranking on that T-bolt clamp, and it essentially will dent or cave in the pipe and essentially cause a boost leak, cause the boost to blow off. So what we've done recently with a lot of our product, A, for weight savings, and B, for rust for prevention, is we've changed a lot of intercooler piping over to aluminum, but we're not using 16 gauge, we're using 14 gauge.
Okay.
It's thicker, and you're not going to concave it. I mean, numerous occasions, numerous sizes, before going in the oven, after going in the oven, because aluminum can be annealed and become soft and hard through different processes. You will strip out a T-bolt clamp before you ever cave in or dent one of our intercooler pipes from tightening a clamp too much. So it's just like we mentioned earlier, improving upon older product and just making things better as we go along and as we learn things. So the cost savings, aluminum is going to be a cheaper material for us to buy versus, say, stainless steel. Stainless steel is your top tier, most expensive material you're going to buy. And, it's tough shit, but it's going to raise the price of all this product that is already very expensive.
Sure.
So we're able to keep prices the same or potentially even drop prices and offer you a better, longer lasting material that's not going to fail under these high boost applications that these trucks see.
The Diesel Performance Podcast is brought to you by Calibrated Power Solutions, home of DuramaxTuner.com. Calibrated Power develops emissions-equipped calibrations for a wide variety of diesel powertrains, including the Duramax, Cummins, PowerStroke, John Deere, Case, New Holland, and many more. For more information and great customer service, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920. That's 815-568-7920.